Hi, and you're very welcome back to episode 12 of the League of Ireland podcast here on finalwhistle.ie. I'm joined, as usual, by Dean Zambra, captain of Longford Town. Dean, you're very welcome back.
Thanks for having me back again. Glad to be here.
Now, we're recording this on Sunday morning. How did you sleep last night? Bit of a disappointing result down in Bishopsgate.
Yeah, well, like a lot of players don't sleep too well after games anyway because of the adrenaline buzz and you don't get a lot of sleep recovery time. But yeah, it's a disappointing result. I think we're close in games, but we just need to find an extra kind of 5 or 10%, especially in this league. Like, you know, we give a little bit of leeway to the other teams and they punish you. And Bohs actually played quite well and took a deserved lead in the game. But just when we were kind of maybe back in it and looking to get an equaliser, they scored again against a run of play maybe, and that killed the game off. And, you know, we can't complain about the result. The better team won on the day, but from our own point of view, we're just probably a little couple of percentage away from getting the results, you know, that way. So we're thereabouts, but just need to find a little bit extra.
Yeah, I'd agree with you in terms of the actual the movement at the time. You probably dominated for maybe the 5 or 10 minutes beforehand, including probably for me anyway. And I'm not just saying it because you're here, but a phenomenal tackle, one of the best tackles I've seen in the league this season. Probably one that if you hadn't made contact with the ball, you could have been having a little conversation with the referee very shortly afterwards. I haven't seen that from you in a long time. So always nice as a defensive midfielder to kind of make those interceptions and win back possession for your side.
Yeah, I mean, like I've done that for majority of my career, really, you know. And as you get a little bit older, I think like going to ground is your last resort, really. And like you said, if I don't make the tackle, Ross Tierney gets away and possibly scores or sets up a chance, or you know, I'd get booked if I had brought him down in that situation. So at that point of the game, you kind of had to make a little bit of a risk and try and win the ball back there. And you know, thankfully I did, and it was a good tackle. But you know, try to win the ball and intercept it more than going to ground because, like you said, the risk involved. But at that point in the game, we had to take a couple of risks to try and win the ball back quickly and try and break down that Bohs defensive barrier. And to be fair, Bohs are a very strong defense. We weren't able to break through the rear guard that they had there, and not long after, I think they scored the second goal. So that kind of put it out of sight then, you know.
But in terms of that interaction, particularly, how much of that goes through your mind? Do you think about the potential for getting booked? Do you think about the fact that you just have to win the ball, or is it really just an instinct at this stage of your career?
I think it's an instinct that, you know, I seen the ball and kind of had to make a quick judgment as to whether I could get there, you know, quick enough or not. And I thought it was within my reach, and obviously went all out to get it and had to time it perfectly, and I just about did. So I don't think you have time to weigh up all the different consequences. I think you just have to make that decision, and you have to rely on, you know, being a good decision maker. And I think at this point in my career, I get the decisions right more often than not. But like I said, if Ross takes another like slight touch, you know, he's going to be away from me, or possibly I take him down. So, you know, it's all part of the game. They're those quick bang bang interaction plays, like, you know. So this one went for me on this occasion. But like you said, being the kind of rear guard midfield player or holding midfield player there, you have to make challenges throughout the game, throughout the season. So I'm sure there'll be many more interactions like it throughout the rest of the campaign.
Speaking of quick bang bang, Liam Burt struck an absolute fantastic goal. He's getting quite used to these now. His third of the season, and all of them exceptionally impressive. But he took one touch and bang, put it past Michael Kelly in the Longford goal from about 25 yards. He's some player. You got up close and personal with him yesterday. How did you find dealing with him, and I suppose that strike in itself?
Yeah, I think he's a very good player, and I think we spoke about Bohs at the start of the year, whereby that kind of front four they had all moved on, and they're integrating a new front four, and I think they're actually playing well now. And you're probably seeing after the first round of games that there's a little bit more cohesion and a little bit more gelling of those players. And you know, we didn't give Liam too much yesterday, but like you said, it was one touch out of his feet and in the top corner, like, you know. And we had Chris Forrester do that a couple of weeks ago as well. So we're really seeing like the top level Premier Division players being able to do that. So as I said at the start when we were discussing it, we need to find maybe 2%, 5% more just to stop those little interactions from happening, because the players in this league are good enough to put it in the top corner. So you know, from our point of view, we probably would have liked to be a little bit tighter. And from Bo's point of view, it was good movement to get him away, and he gets a shot off and scores. So, you know, we're not a million miles off, like I said, but it's just those small bits of quality that are separating the games at the moment for us.
Yeah, I suppose for the record, 2-0 the final score. Liam Burt on the half-hour mark and Ali Coote about 15 minutes from time. A little bit against the run of play, as we mentioned, but 2-0 for Bohs. Their continuous move up that table continues as the season progresses. Let's go back maybe to Friday night and take a look at some of the games that were taking place on over the weekend. But we start on Friday night, and we might start in chronological order. So Finn Harps Dundalk, they were up first on Friday. Ballybofey is a tough place to go. Ollie took his unusual stance, sitting beside the shop, as was well documented on social media. There was some very funny things. I know he got a couple of people, maybe they weren't observing social distancing beside him in some of the memes that went around. I saw a former CEO of the FAI make an appearance with his buddy beside Ollie on that shop. Ollie, he's some character. We've talked about him so much on the show, but Finn Harps, 1-1. They've got to be delighted with their season and particularly that result. It's another fine result for the Ballybofey side, and what a strike from McNamee.
Yeah, and I think like they went to Bohs last week and got beaten kind of 4-0. It was probably their worst game of the season so far. But I think sometimes you see that in the league, like between the part-time teams and the full-time teams, that you're not right at it 100% every week. But the good thing for Ollie and Finn Harps was that they bounced back really, really quickly. And like you said, a hard place to go, Ballybofey, and they're continuing that trend. So I think they'll be happy with the point, and over the course of the season, they'll be happy with kind of the progression they're making. They're putting points on the board all the time. They're not going long periods without wins or without points, and I'm sure Ollie's delighted with that. And I think when we talked to Stephen Fowler at the start of the season, we kind of said to them we expected them to maybe do better than just kind of hanging on for a playoff place, and they seem to be doing that so far. So they'll be delighted. From the Dundalk point of view, it's probably not the worst point in the world. I know with the position they're in, they want to start winning games and moving up the table really, really quickly. But over the course of 4 rounds of fixtures, that individual result's probably not the worst in the world. And the fact that they came back and got a point, they done that against us. So they're probably building a little bit of momentum and a little bit of kind of character and continuity within the side. So they'll need 3 points moving forward, but they might not think it's the worst point in the world either.
Yeah, I suppose a big talking point in Dundalk in the last 2 weeks, of course, was their little sojourn up to Belfast last Sunday. They were photographed up there. A lot of those players featured on Friday evening, the players who were pictured up in Belfast featured on Friday evening. They did come back, as you mentioned. Ole Eric Mitskogen got his first goal for the club just after half-time. You kind of felt watching the game that maybe they might push on from there and go on and win the game, but it wasn't to be for them. As a player, I know they broke COVID. Let's not get into the details of that. It's been done to death in the media and the social media over the last week or 10 days. But in terms of, I suppose, those kind of experiences where you feel like it's the world against you, does it help consolidate a squad like that?
I suppose it can. Like, I mean, I don't know if Dundalk Football Club are under that much kind of outside pressure that they can create a us against the world type approach. But I think it can. Like, it's probably something that you use as a motivational tool. I still think, and again, we talked about it early in the season, is there's a huge turnover of players, a lot of new kind of faces, and I still think they're looking for the right balance, the right gel. I don't see the same 11 being named week after week, or even, you know, the spine of the same kind of team seem to be chopping and changing a little bit, trying to find something. So I think more so that side of things is what will get them through in the end, when they figure out what's their best 11 or what's their best shape, and maybe a couple of lads that have kind of been in and out through injury as well come back in and bed in, and that will be what they'll be looking at going forward. But I still think a long way to go. So you know, once they consolidate that, I think again you'll see them moving up a little bit.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about Drogheda and St. Pat's a little bit with our guest later on in the programme. But first of all, I suppose Dan O'Reilly's joining us, obviously, from Drogheda United. But your own thoughts on the game. Drogheda 3-1 winners. They've got to be delighted with how their season's going so far. But they're worth every single result they've had.
Yeah, I think they played really well. It wasn't kind of a smash and grab win against one of the top sides kind of thing. It was it was a good performance. 2 very, very good goals in the first half. Dane Massey's free kick and Mark Doyle's strike from the edge of the box. And I think, you know, they just probably capitalised on Pats coming from a really difficult result the week before. They maybe just got on top of them early, and you know, the first goal, especially going 2-0 up, is so important in this league, and it really gives you a platform to win games. And Drogheda were well worth their 3 points in the end.
Yeah, and of course, Shamrock Rovers Derry City also took place on Saturday evening. I know you were playing while this was on as well, so you mightn't have had a chance to see much of it. But the main talking point, as well as 2 late sending offs, which didn't affect the result, was Shamrock Rovers' equaliser. A fine finish from Gary Shaw, but if you roll it back a couple of seconds, the throw-in definitely not taken from where the ball went out. In fact, so much so it caught not only the Derry City defence off guard, the cameraman didn't even catch the throw in. It was taken so far away. A bit of opportunism from Shamrock Rovers, poor officiating, bit of both.
Maybe a little bit of both. I mean, it's a poor decision. I don't think Rovers are doing anything that anyone else wouldn't do. I think Liam Scales ran and grabbed the ball. Roddy Gaffney made a run. He throws it to him. Like, you know, I don't know.
I don't know why I said Gary Shaw. My head's absolutely melting. But yeah, it was Gaffney, obviously, found the back of the rolling back the ears here for Gary. Yeah. Rory Gaffney, yeah.
I don't think they've done anything wrong per se, but it's a poor officiating error between whether there's a linesman, a fourth, the referee. Like, they could have all pulled it back, you know, what was it, 15, 20 yards maybe, you know. But a long way to go as well before the ball went in the net. And I think, like, Rory would be a little bit disappointed with kind of how it ended up in the net from that position as well. So, you know, there's a couple of little things there. I think all the other clubs will look and say, oh, Rovers got another decision, because I think they've got a couple of quite soft ones over the first round of fixtures. But they're also the team that presses and presses and presses most of the game. So sometimes the decisions come with that kind of relentless pressure. And as well, it was like 50 odd minutes. So you're thinking that it probably didn't change the outcome of the game. They still would have had time to score or maybe equalise at another point. So, you know, from Rovers' point of view, it's probably quick thinking, nothing more than that. But I think from officiating point of view, they should have got it right and it should have been brought back.
When you say Rory will be disappointed, you mean, of course, Rory Higgins, not Rory Gaffney. He'll be over the moon with it, yeah. But in terms of the officiating, we've seen some poor decisions, and it's an easy target. Going after referees is an easy target, but the reality is we're all human. We all make mistakes. Just because it goes against us this week and goes for us next week, it just seems to kind of balance each other out at times. So, like, there's perfect examples all across the season where you get a decision one week, you lose the decision the following week. It does tend to even out. It's just when it's that blatant, it's kind of hard to take. But I suppose in defense of the officials, it's probably the one place in Tallaght Stadium you're the furthest away from the fourth official. There's no assistant referee on your half of the pitch. It's very hard to enforce that, particularly when it happens so quickly. Like, the ball's in the back of the net before you realise what's even happened. And then you're pulling back a goal. It takes a fair set of cojones to pull that back if you're a referee.
Yeah, and I think it's a poor decision, but I think we often get into kind of crucifying people for every decision, you know, that way. Like you said, referee could turn his head for a couple of seconds and not see exactly where the ball's gone out of play, and then you don't have another official on that side. It's picked up and thrown in really quickly. So I think when the officials do their analysis and look back on it, they'll be disappointed they didn't get it right, and they will wish they have pulled it back. But we also have a situation whereby you get some and you don't get others, and there is a, you know, kind of balancing of these things out over the course of the season. So, like, I don't think anyone needs to be crucified over it, but I think we would like to see the standard at a level that doesn't happen when it's a blatant one and a quite obvious one.
Yeah, I agree with you. There was one game, of course, that didn't take place this weekend. Waterford United, Waterford FC. I'm full of the naming errors. I'm rolling back the years, showing my age. Waterford FC conceded their game effectively, told Sligo Rovers they wouldn't be making the journey to the showgrounds. No official decision as yet. The disciplinary structures within the FAI will make a decision on that, but it's hard to see anything else but a Sligo Rovers walkover based on what happened with Cabin TV and Galway early in the season. From a player's point of view, Do you like in this situation, even if it's for or against you, would you rather the game be played, or are you happy that the rules, as the FAI laid them out at the start of the year, are being observed in this instance?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult situation because obviously we seen them roll out a team last week and got beaten heavily and probably didn't want to incur that kind of result again. And then this week they decided not to play the game. And I think it's just a little bit of a bad look for the league overall. It feels like we're not fully buttoned up in terms of our protocols and things like that. And then I know some people were kind of throwing accusations at Dundalk saying like their players could have been involved in something, but they all played then as well. Like, and is it kind of one rule for the bigger club and one rule for the other club? I don't think the situations are exactly the same, so I don't think they're that comparable. But I think we've just let ourselves into a situation whereby I don't think everybody, League of Ireland fans, players, people at other clubs know exactly what's going on every week with each individual situation. Like, and from my point of view, with it being a Longford point of view, we're obviously, you know, looking to pick up results and looking to pick up wins. And we've got Waterford who've essentially conceded 2 games now. And then maybe we play them later in the year and they're at full strength again. And it could affect other teams. So there might be a competitive balance issue further down the line with teams that didn't get to play them during this period, as opposed to teams that took points off when they were at full strength, like, you know. So that's probably the only situation that could arise. But again, it leaves the FAI in a tough situation that they don't really have any other options, and you can't postpone fixtures, you know, at will and then try to fit them in further along the calendar because the calendar is so full anyway.
Yeah, it is chock a block, and of course, we'll talk later in the show. But we've double found the fixtures next weekend, Friday and Monday in the Premier Division. But at the moment, it's Shamrock Rovers who lead at the top of the table. Everybody, bar Sligo and Waterford, obviously have played 11 games so far. Shamrock Rovers lead by 6 points from St Patrick's Athletic. Sligo Rovers, with that game in hand, which we suspect will be awarded to them, they're 2 points behind Pats on 19, and then you've got a whole scatter of clubs from 16 points down to 10. You've Drogheda, Finn Harps, Bows, 1 point separating each of them, 16, 15, 14. Dundalk on 11, Derry on 10. Yourselves, Longford on 7, 1 clear of Waterford, although they have a game in hand. But as we mentioned, we do expect that to be awarded to Sligo. So a little bit of breathing space there. Goal difference, from your point of view, in terms of that competition at Waterford, you've picked up, I suppose, 10 points advantage on them in the last 2 weeks, which may or may not, as you mentioned earlier, come into a decision as to whether ye or them might be ahead of each other at the end of the season, wherever on the table you might find yourselves. Let's take a look at the First Division as we go down, and obviously some big games at the weekend. I'm not sure how many of these you got to watch. Obviously, you were playing while Cobh and Shells did battle on Saturday night. For me, the tie of the round was actually Galway and Wexford. It had the makings of the fairy tale. Wexford have had a poor season so far, rooted to the bottom of the table, 0 points from their opening 7 games, and they're 4 minutes deep into the 4 minutes added at the end of the game against one of the better sides in the league. Galway United away. Script was written for them to pick up their first result of the weekend. And David Hurley hadn't quite read the ending. He buried it from edge of the box. Lovely finish. Galway took all 3 points. Great from a Galway point of view, but heartbreaking for then managerless, now new manager appointed on Saturday afternoon. Wexford, there's only really one way to look from this. You've got to pick yourself up and go again, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it would be devastating for them. Like that, their point was within touching distance, and you know, that's kind of what happens when you're down there. You know, you don't get the bit of luck, or you know, team scores with like a couple of seconds left in the added time, even as well. Like it's not even the last minute of the kind of regulation. Like so, you know, that's what happens when you're down there, and I'm sure they'll keep plugging away. And with Ian Ryan gone in as manager now, I'm sure he'll have his own ideas and set the team up to try and start picking up some points. But from Galway point of view, they'll be delighted to get the win. You know, they didn't. We wouldn't want to drop points at home to the bottom club. So getting that last gasp winner could be a big result for them in the end, and it might just ignite them a little bit. I think it's been a little stop start so far for John, and you know, if they can kind of capitalize on that win and then push on. And like we always say with the First Division, you're only a couple of results away from really being in the mix for promotion at any stage. So they'll look at as a catalyst for better results going forward.
Absolutely, and I think from Ian Ryan's point of view, obviously, he's moved from UCD, who have a good reputation of working with young players and developing players, and he's been a huge part of that in recent years. Um, he's gone in there. I suppose I listened to the lads commentating on the game from Galway on Friday night for a little bit, and even they said themselves a minute or two into that stoppage time that Wexford were worth the draw if that's what happened. It was almost prophetic in terms of how it was going to work. But it's not as bad as the league table might suggest for Ian Ryan going in there.
No, I don't think so. I think probably if he evaluates all the performances, he might think they deserved 4 points, 5 points, whatever it might be, looking over them. There was obviously the UCD game where they were a goal down, a man down from the first minute of the game. But kind of the other ones, there's not a huge amount. I think they took a beating at Cork as well, which was heavy enough. But other than that, like they've been kind of thereabouts, even for certain periods of the game, like probably first hour, first 75 minutes, and probably just needs to find that extra little gear for them to start picking up points. But I don't know if Ian will go in and change things hugely in terms of the team or the selection or the way they'll play. But I think his first focus will just be to break that duck that's on the board at the minute and get something on the board.
Yeah, of course. One of the big games in your neck of the woods on Friday night was the visit of Cabinteely to their near neighbours Bray. 3-0 win for Bray in that game. Goals from Dylan Barnett, Richie O'Farrell early on, and then Gary Shaw. Who else? 15 minutes some time just to put the gloss on it. Bray will be happy because Cabinteely is a tough place to get a result, or a tough team to get a result against.
Yeah, I think your real Jekyll and Hyde stuff with Cabinteely, like one week they could beat the league leaders, the next, they get beaten 3-0 or 4-0. Like, and I think that's just the nature, the makeup of their squad at the minute. But I think we talked about Bray and they drew 5 of the first 6, and we were kind of saying they're probably a result or two away from really shooting up the league. And now they've won their last 2 and good performances. Like, so I think Gary will be much, much happier the last couple of weeks. And emphatic 3-0 win, like you said, against a difficult Cabinteely team, I think really pushes them on. And when they were drawing those games, I think we said a couple of times on the podcast that they're not out of it, even though they hadn't kind of won a game in those first 5 or 6, and now they're starting to look good again. Like, so expect Bray to keep pushing on, and Cabinteely, I don't know what to expect. He could get a win next weekend, and it's just totally different kind of variations on their results week to week.
They play Treaty next weekend, and of course we'll talk about that game and Treaty's 1-0 win on the score sheet for the first time in his career in the league. Jack Lynch, we'll be chatting him in a couple of minutes, but they got to be happy. Athlone have been impressive this season. Treaty went out, got a result against them at home, 1-0, moves them closer to the top of the table, level with Athlone as it happens.
Yeah, and when teams are going to Treaty now, I think, we're kind of saying we'd fancy Treaty, or we expect them to get kind of a point or something on the board. So when Athlone went down there, I think we had felt this week like that would be a difficult one for Athlone, and coming off the back of a couple of losses as well for Athlone. So I think Adrian will be disappointed that it's now, a couple of games in a row, but it just shows what a competitive team Tommy's put together at Treaty, and that it's a really difficult place to go. When they get in front, they have that real solidity and belief, and that they can hang on and get results, and 3 points specifically, and not just draws and things like that as well. So very, very good 3 points for Treaty, and like I said, we've been impressed with how competitive they've been so far.
Yeah, I suppose the last game on Friday night in the first division was the meeting of UCD and Cork City. Now, UCD have been lighting the scoring charts up all season, but drew a blank against Cork, who themselves struggled in front of goal. 0-0, a bit of a stalemate, not even really much in the way of chances. Not a great game for either side, and probably 2 points dropped for both, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and I think just maybe what you see there is 2 sides with a lot of young players and probably trying to play a similar style, so maybe cancelling each other out a little bit. We know like Cork have a lot of young players and trying to play some good stuff, and we've seen them playing really good stuff the week before against Wexford. And UCD, we know that model is get the ball forward, getting it to the front 3, and they've a very potent front 3. And maybe they just cancel each other out with their styles a little bit, but like you said, they kind of both fail to create a lot, and both obviously not much goal scoring opportunities in the game. So probably Cork would be happier, I'd say, maybe with the point coming up to UCD, but UCD, I think, have impressed me so far this season, so I don't think it'll be too much of a stumbling block for them going forward. I think they'll get goals again soon.
Yeah, you have to say as well, a couple of players missing in the UCD side. No Liam Kerrigan and no Jack Keane, and we've had both of them on the show recently. They've been integral to their fine performances this year. Neither of them featured the other night, and I think UCD, when it comes into this season with exams, maybe a few injuries or a suspension or two, it can be tough for them to keep consistency the whole way through that spell in May, June.
Yeah, I think it's kind of often said around the league, if you're playing UCD during that time, there can be little distractions there. So I've asked for Andy to manage the players, and we know they haven't got a really, really deep squad. We know a lot of talented players, but probably not a hugely deep squad, and especially experience-wise. So if you've got a couple of lads like Liam and Jack that have experience in the league, and you're taking them out and putting in kind of newer lads that have no experience, it can just affect what you're trying to do a little bit. So it's not a crisis by any means, but I think it's just something that Andy will monitor throughout the kind of couple of months that it'll affect them, you know.
I suppose the final game of the season, or the weekend, should I say, in terms of results. I don't know what's wrong with me today. I think I've had some lessons from the Tony Donoghue school. I haven't put home farm back in the league yet, but I feel like I've had about 4 or 5 blunders. The final game of the weekend, Coleman's Park, Cobh Ramblers versus Shells, and I suppose you've had experience in a title battle with Shells with Longford maybe 2 seasons ago, and they just seem to have that ability to grind out results. They seem to have kind of taken that again to a new extreme. 1-0 down after a quarter of an hour, Conor Drynan with an effort for Cobh. It looked like they were probably going to actually go and win this game, but the last half hour, Shells just came into their own and really just powered away. John Ross Wilson, a fine score from the edge of the box. Great effort. And then that man, he does it all the time in terms of just popping up when they absolutely need him. Ryan Brennan in the right place at the right time. Took the winner 5 minutes from time. Shells, again, they're putting just a couple of points. That's all it is at the moment, but just those couple of points between themselves and the rest at the top of the table. And I suppose they came into the season as title favourites. They're beginning to look like the early season hype.
Yeah, I think they're doing what they need to do. The mirror done a couple of seasons ago when they won the league, which maybe not always, but they're kind of grinding out the wins at the right times and a bit of momentum and build confidence within the group that they can get the results needed. And top 10 in the first division, it's not about being all that extravagant games, and like starting to put a points between themselves. And over the course of 3 rounds of fixtures, I'm sure Ian would expect that they extend that gap further and put themselves in a position to go straight back up.
Yeah, well, listen, maybe let's jump into the interviews of the weekend, obviously, with the roundup done. Shells top of the league, and someone who knows all about Shells at the top of the league is our first guest, although he's with Drogheda these days. It's Dan O'Reilly, formerly of your parish in Longford, and now playing his trade with Drogheda. Let's have a chat with him about their fantastic result this weekend and how the season's been going so far. Now, Daniel O'Reilly of Drogheda United, we welcome to the programme.
How's it going, lads?
Great. It's a pleasure to have you. I suppose we might as well start with the fantastic results at the weekend. It was St. Pat's in town. They've been in fine form this season, but you ended their little run and you got yourself a really, really nice victory in the process. There must be a great mood in the camp up there in Head in the Game Park.
Yeah, look, it was a really good win. I thought going into the game Friday, coming off the back of a big result last week, we're full of confidence. Obviously, last week's result was a bit of a mad one playing against Waterford 19s. But look, we got a few goals, and obviously we thought bringing it into our patch on Friday, Pats might come having lost to Rovers the week before last minute that, I don't know, we just thought we could catch them, and we started off really well. And as I was saying to Dean beforehand, we got that first goal and just kept building on that then, and it was a really good result.
Do you think you surprised teams a little bit so far, Dan? I know you are very close against Rovers to get a point, and then Pats are kind of one of the top teams as well coming to your place and you beat them. Do you think you've kind of surprised teams along the way with getting some results and some of the performances as well? It's not just hanging on for a result, it's actually, good performances too.
Yeah, to be honest, in every game bar the Bowls game, we've actually played well. Performances have been there. A few games, like you said, against Rovers, we were unlucky. We've drawn a few games where we thought we could have won. So, yeah, I suppose we surprised people, but you know, there's a general belief, like in our camp, that we're good, like, you know, but we just want to take every game as it comes, and you know, obviously as the season goes on, it's a long season, so it's only early days yet, so we definitely won't get carried away.
Yeah, in terms of, I suppose, the actual performances all year, you've impressed me right from the very first game where you took all 3 points in the last kick of the game against Waterford. Now, we've seen a very different side of Waterford. The two games there, you had to fight tooth and nail first day of the season, and then the 7-0 last week down in the RSC, polar opposites. What's your own experience of, I suppose, those two games in particular, in terms of, I suppose, do you get much pleasure out of going down and putting 7 past a group of kids?
You know, it's kind of not a lose-lose, but you know, you're going into the game and like people are expecting you to win regardless. So if you win 1-0, people are gonna say, oh, like you should have battered them. But if you win 7-0, people are saying, oh, it's only against the 19s, like, you know. So in terms of going down, we just, you know, try to keep it professional, and obviously look, goals are hard to come by in this league. So in terms of goal difference, I think it's obviously really good for us. And look, at the end of the day, we won 7-0. It was 5-0 at half time. Like, the game was obviously done and dusted. But you know, you won't get many games or any games at all like that this year. Like, most games are just intense, flat to the mat, mentally as well as physically. You know, so yeah, obviously you enjoy the goals, but you know, the games that you have to be always spot on, you know, like Friday night, you have to be mentally aware the whole game. Like, it's obviously completely different to last week. Like,
you formed a partnership there with Dane, with old pal of mine at centre half. I know you've played right side of centre back a little bit for us, like in Longford as well, and Dane's coming in from left back. Like, how has that partnership formed over the first kind of round of games, with maybe both not playing in the ideal position, but still kind of forming a good solid base for the team?
Yeah, look, Dane's been around a long time. Like, he brings a wealth of experience. Obviously he's a left back, but I know he's played centre back before for Dundalk. And I think he slotted in really well, you know. But he'll even tell you himself, like, he's obviously learning as well as he's going along. But we've obviously played 3 at the back. We've played 2. I'm not really fussed whether I play right, left, in the middle. It's much of a muchness. Obviously, you just have to adapt. But playing alongside someone like Dane, you know, his experience, and he helps out like Connor Kane and stuff at left back. So I think even though we're both left foot, I think we complement each other well, or we have complemented each other well so far. So I've enjoyed playing with him, yeah.
Of course, Dane got on the score sheet on over the weekend. Fantastic free kick between himself and Ronan Murray. There must be fairly good competition for who takes the kicks so far this year, because we've had 2 great shots from them this season. One is in pre-season, mind you, but still.
Yeah, I'm never going to hear the end of that one now from Dane. We're only practicing free kicks there a couple of weeks ago in training, and he was actually hitting them well. But you know, when a free kick comes, you've got a few players that are running up going, I'll take, and then if you miss, you're done then, you know. So I'd say he'll be on them for the next while anyway.
You can hit them as well, Dan. Have you thrown your name in the hat?
I tried the Friday night, but Dane wasn't having it. Like, he was just like, nah, I'm hitting it. So what can you do? Like, you're not going to be a baby about it. You just get on with it.
Yeah.
Especially when he pulls it out of the locker.
You can't say it, and like, you know.
Yeah, you've no leg to stand on. In terms of the game the other night, I suppose Mark Doyle has been a bit of a revelation this year. I know he's had a couple of really, really top-notch performances this season. The goal just before half-time really settled kind of the nerves, and kind of, it's always a good time to score. But how much different was the atmosphere in the dressing room at the break, given the nature of the 2-0 up against one of the league leaders?
Yeah, look, Doyle scored a cracker, obviously. And going in 2-0 compared to 1-0 is obviously, you know, you've a bit of a, I wouldn't say breathing space, but, you know, like, the game is in your control. Obviously, they scored quite late on, and we were kind of backs against the wall. But going in 2-0, you know, you really have that belief that, right, we can really get another one here, or we can sit back and absorb the pressure, which we kind of did, and that's kind of just how the game panned out. But yeah, obviously going in 2-0, you're going right. This game is in our hands now.
Yeah, who's been the
Sorry, yeah. In terms of yourself, Dan, like I know you've probably had a typical kind of League of Ireland career, having played for a couple of clubs even at a young age. But do you think with Cobh and Tim, two good League of Ireland defenders, that's the right place now for your career to develop a little bit?
Yeah, look, I obviously played with yourself and Kev at Longford, like, you know, so I know Kev from there. But yeah, the two lads, obviously they're quite young, like, so they're still very in tune with how players and how the game is today. Like, so for me, it's just been really enjoyable so far. In terms of the league, like, obviously you can go from club to club. It's, you know, you only get 1 year contract, so people can say, oh, you've been here, you've been there, but like, you have to, obviously you need a club, like, so sometimes you just have to do what's best for you, but you still want that stability. Like, if you can play somewhere for a few years and enjoy your football, I think that's better. Like, but yeah, I've really enjoyed it so far, and obviously just want to keep it going now.
There looks to be a really good competitive competition, I suppose, really to get in the team every week. I know a few of you have nailed down regular starting places, but I know there's been ins and outs in goals. Colin McCabe's come in some weeks. David Adamson seems to be in possession of that jersey at the moment, but it's flip-flopped. It's the same in a couple of clubs across the country. In terms of, I suppose, what that brings to the squad, knowing that you have to perform every week, or there literally is somebody just chopping at the bit to get your jersey. Does that help as a player, or is it something that's always in the back of your mind as a bit of a concern?
No, I think it helps. I think healthy competition in a squad is good. You know, you have to, you can't depend on too many players, because if you get injuries, like 1 or 2 injuries, and you're kind of playing the same players, then you don't know where you're going to go. Like, so we actually have a good few young lads who are really good, and they've done well when they've come in. So to have that competition and each week, and know, like, you know, sometimes you kind of know maybe going into a game that you might play on the back of a previous performance, but it's also the opposite way. Like, if you don't play well, you know, there's someone else there to come in and fill the jersey, and they'll do just as well as you. Like,
away from the pitch, Dan, obviously your own training company, Us to You Fitness, and you spend a little bit of time in England as well, like earlier in your career. Where do you think we're at in terms of like the overall kind of conditioning, fitness levels of League of Ireland players? Like, do you think we're getting to that stage now where we're matching what's across the water from that particular point of view? Or do you think we're still a little bit away? Is there more that we can do kind of as a whole, as a league, to get up to those elite fitness levels?
I think it's definitely gotten better. Like, from when I came into the league compared to now, it's like the quality of, say, like S&C coaches and stuff like that in the background has 100% improved. I still do think, obviously, I wouldn't say we're a bit behind, but in terms of like the financial side of things, you know, that obviously helps. You know, being in England, you see, like, they've everything, you know, because they have the money. You know, obviously we've got the GPSs and stuff like that now. But over there, it's a bit more extreme. You've got everything at your disposal, but it's definitely improved. Like even myself, having worked with a few different fitness coaches over the last few years, like, the quality of them is really good. Like, obviously at the full-time teams, you know, Rovers and Dundalk, they obviously can pay the S&C coaches more. So maybe that's the issue as well. You know, with not the full-time teams, they mightn't be able to afford a full-time S&C coach. But I think it's definitely improved, and yeah, slowly but surely, you know, we're getting there. You even see players coming back from England, and they find that the tempo of the game is really high. Like, they think, you know, your stereotypical one where they come home, they think they can just walk into a team and stuff. Like, they're in for a rude awakening when they see the actual tempo of the game, you know.
Yeah.
I suppose in terms of, I suppose, other things happening off the pitch around Drogheda at the moment, couldn't help but see the social media plea on Saturday evening about the fire that was caused with the youth club up in Drogheda United, and the destruction of their premises and their gear and stuff. I know they've launched a a GoFundMe. I'm not sure what it is, as people will see this, but it was a really, really impressive start. A couple of €1,000 in the first few hours of the campaign. How much is that sort of stuff a setback to, I suppose, League of Ireland not being able to secure that stuff properly and be kind of able to protect against, I don't know what I call them, youngsters? You can call them whatever you want, but we'll go with youngsters for now. I know I'd like to call them a lot worse.
Yeah. Look, obviously you're going to get things like that happening. Like, it doesn't matter. It could be in Drogheda, it could be in anywhere, like, you know. But it's obviously just going to give that a bad name, or like give that area a bad name if something like that happens. But I think like responding to that, like with a GoFundMe, or trying your best to use, say, the social media platform that clubs may have, getting it out there. I think that's the only way you can really help. Like,
yeah, hopefully it'll the support will be there, and there's obviously a GoFundMe there if anyone wants to check it out on social media, on Twitter. I know Drogheda United shared it over the weekend. In terms of the rest of the season going forward, obviously, I think you're probably playing above expectations of neutral people looking from the outside in. You're in the top half of the table after more than the first round of games. Where can this team go? Is a European run within the possibility of this group of players?
To be honest, I don't know. Like I said to Dean earlier on, you just kind of take each game as it comes. For us, we want to obviously stay up. You know, that's the main goal for us, and I would be lying if I didn't say it wasn't. Like, you know, I think, like, if you ask me again in another 11 games, then maybe it could be a different answer. Like, but at the moment, we just want to try get as many points on the board as we can, and try like secure that Premier Division status again. For next year.
Yeah, Monday night, of course, you're playing Harps on Friday, but Monday night there's a bit of a battle with Longford, back to old stomping ground. You get to play against an old team. You get to play against Dean. Who's going to get to kick who first? Or does Dean doesn't get that far forward, so it'll be fine.
I don't know. So we won't be near each other.
Yeah, we won't see each other.
But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that. Obviously, you know, you don't have much time to think about games when you play on a Friday, and then you play on a Monday. It's kind of like, right, Saturday morning, you're getting yourself ready to go again on Monday, recovery wise. So, but I enjoy it. I don't know about you, Dean. Like, obviously, you know, you train a lot. Like, but when you play games Friday, Monday, you kind of just bounce back in. If you win, you're going in, like, you know, full of confidence. But if you lose, you're going, right, we can react now on Monday, like, you know.
I'm finding the recovery is so important, and like you just have to recover well and go again. Like, even, you know, even when you have a week to build up, it's recovery early part of the week, and then you're kind of ramping up again to come into the next game. Like, you know, the way it's this gradual process. Like, so that's what I'm finding the biggest thing for us. Like, you know, is recovering and being ready to go into that next game.
Yeah, I think that's a massive part of it. Like if you play on a Friday, I don't know about you, but Saturday I'd be okay. But even Sunday, I'd be more stiff like than the Saturday, you know, especially if you play away from home. I do struggle to sleep after games, like whether it's home or away, like staring at the walls at 2 or 3 in the morning, just adrenaline. Like, so then obviously you don't really get a good sleep then. So you're trying to get a good make up for it the night after. You know, you got your ice bath, your foam rolling, you know, the usual bits and bobs. And then if you're working too, like the likes of ourselves, we're working. So that plays a role in as well, you know. Think the full-time teams are obviously a bit lucky that that's all they do, you know, whereas we have to look after our bodies a bit more.
Yeah, thanks for making Dean not making Dean feel too old, but pretending you also need time to recover after games. Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thanks very much for popping in. The best of luck over the next few weeks, and who knows, maybe that 4th place could stay in Drogheda's hands as they get closer and closer towards the end of the season. Thanks very much.
No worries, lads. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers, Dan. Thanks.
Now in a weekend of firsts for Jack Lynch of Drogheda United. First time on our show, first time finding the back of the net. And it wasn't a bad effort as well, to be fair. Nicely worked 1-2, and he just coolly slotted it past Michael Schlingerman in the Athlone goal. 1-0 victory for Drogheda on Friday night. Jack, welcome to the programme.
Thanks very much for having me, lads. Delighted to be here.
Let's talk about the goal first. First goal in the league. How much is a kind of a midfield defensive player does that come into it? Like, are you happy with that? Obviously, you're happy to get on the score sheet, but you took your finish like any decent striker would be proud of.
Yeah, you know, it's a bit of a blur now, to be completely honest. I've been waiting so long for a goal, now I can't bloody remember the thing. But no, look, I think we've seen the video. The funniest bit of the video is when Red tries to take a shot from 50 yards. It just happens to fall back into my feet. I played into Sticky, and then Sticky plays one of his kind of trademark slide rule passes that no one in the whole country would see bar himself, and it just ends up at my feet on the 18-yard box. And from then I'm just thinking, hit the target. That's all you can do. Just don't miss and don't act. So no, look, I'm just delighted to be on the score sheet. Obviously, it means a lot when it's your hometown club, and obviously the inaugural season and all that feeds into it. So look, we're on a bit of a roll at the minute, and touch wood, it'll keep going in the same fashion.
You had very little preparation time, and we spoke to Tommy obviously before the season, like in terms of bringing in players and getting ready, like. And it might be a little bit of a cliche question, but what's been the secret so far to being like really ultra competitive, getting results, you know, picking up points in nearly every game? Like, what do you think's been the biggest factor there?
Do you know what? And I've been asked this question a lot. It's a tough one because, as you say, we didn't have the best pre-season, to be completely honest. I mean, we had 3 or 4 weeks where we didn't see. I don't think we saw football, to be completely honest. We were running, and that's what had to be done to get us in shape. But I don't know if it was a conscious decision by Tommy, but I think it's the squad he's put together and how well we've gelled. You know, I've playing with some of those lads years and years, and other lads, it's my first time ever meeting them. And it's just a case of it's gone from that to now we're all, as cliche as it sounds, we're all best friends. It's like one big family in there. So it's easier to kind of go that extra mile, you know, put in that tackle, make that pass when you're doing it for lads who you really consider some good friends. And look, it's not the easiest of circumstances, as you say. I would honestly say that some of us still probably aren't up to full match fitness. But yeah, you've seen it against the likes of Bray and Shells, especially. Like Bray, we had to dog out a result for 90 minutes. It was our first ever game. Shells is a bit different. We played them off the park for kind of the first half, went to deserve it 1-0 up, had to come back from 2-1 down, and Clyde comes up in a 97-minute winner. And as you say, all those things are a lot easier when you're doing it for people you have a lot of respect for, and a club that's being run the right way. So if I had to put something, if I had to kind of mark down the secret sauce, I'd just say it's the squad he's put together and the way it's being run. It's easier for us lads to go out and give it that kind of extra 10% when we need to.
Yeah. There's a very Limerick feel to the whole club down there in terms of the people behind the scenes, in terms of most of the lads on the pitch. Is that a key factor in that?
Do you know what? I probably wouldn't say it is, because we're so kind of, it's more the Midwest now at this stage. Do you know, we're very geographically diverse, I'd say. We have lads coming from Cork, you know, the likes of Anto and Chaz. We obviously have Ludden coming from Galway, who was probably one of our major coups, major signings. We have lads coming in from Kerry, Matt Keane and the likes. It's a very Limerick-based club, but with a very kind of Munster-based feel, we'll say. And obviously you have myself and a couple of lads coming from Clare. So I suppose we kind of want to make it more that kind of club for the region as opposed to club for the county. And I think the way it's going at the minute is only kind of accenting that even more. You see the buy-in from the fans, not only from Limerick, but I know people from around my own town in Shannon who I would have never known followed League of Ireland are texting me on a Friday night saying best of luck and whatnot. I know the lads in Galway are getting the same. So look, touch wood, we keep going in the same way and we'll keep picking up results, and hopefully that'll bring in even more fans from around the country.
Yeah, you just touched on the community there and around the area, the football community, and I wanted to ask you about that. Like, is there a general feeling that people are backing this club now? Because we've seen like different iterations of a club in Limerick over the years. You've obviously mentioned there that like people are buying in. So you think that the platform there is for a good club and a good strong club, and then please God, when fans return, that we'll have, you know, fans in the ground there as well supporting you.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think that's one of the major points. You see, we done the membership for a treaty, and I think from talking to the lads who are on the board, it's got a serious amount of buy-in. So hopefully that'll kind of turn over when fans are allowed back in and stuff like that. But again, we're trying to, as best as we can, get in as much people from around the region as opposed to just in just in Limerick. And I think on the other side of that then is if we could just be everyone's second favourite club, you know, it's kind of that kind of Cinderella story. If someone's from Longford supporting Longford and they're thinking on a Friday night Longford aren't playing, geez, who am I going to back in tonight? Who am I going to pay the fiver for an LOI TV to watch? If that can be treated United, you know, those fivers that goes a long way to kind of making a sustainable structure in the club, and that's hopefully what we're going to do with in the years to come. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, no, it's great to see the club kind of emerge from the ashes that was senior football down there. As a local of sorts, Shannon's not a million miles from Limerick, but as a local, how important was it, I suppose, to have senior football back this year? Because it's the first time in, I think, the history since senior football was founded in Limerick that there wasn't a team in the league in some way, shape, or form last year.
Yeah, no, it's huge. It's massive. It's massive for everyone that's around. Again, now this is where it kind of switches over from that regional thing to the Limerick thing, because the Marketsfield is such a big vocal point in Limerick. And Friday nights, I remember going to when Limerick FC were playing. I remember being there the first night back, after the Marketsfield opened, and the atmosphere was something you couldn't describe, and you wouldn't have expected to see it at a first division game in Ireland. There must have been 2,000 or 3,000 people there. And then especially for myself, I mean, I've kind of gone round the ringer to end up going 20 minutes into training. You know, I was at Waterford and Galway and Cobh for a short spell, and all I really wanted at the time, if you'd asked me, was to be playing for kind of the club I supported the whole way up. And it's just an honour and a privilege now that I've gotten the opportunity to do that, accent on top of that, the fact that they've made me captain for the inaugural season, it just adds a little cherry on top. So no, look, it's a huge thing for the county as well as us local lads.
When we spoke to Tommy just before he actually started playing, he said he was looking for us to be really competitive, which you've obviously been. But have expectations changed a little bit in that maybe you can reach one of them playoff places this year, or are you not looking that far ahead at the moment? Like,
yeah, I suppose it's a tough one. Our kind of mantra for the first couple of weeks was we'll take it game by game, and we won't get dragged into that sort of talk. We see other clubs talking about winning the league and definitely getting promotion places, and we kind of tried to stay away from that as best as we could. But I suppose at the end of the day, you look at the results we've had. We're coming up to our first round of games, finishing out, and we only have one loss, which we think we probably could have turned around. I mean, to go 2-0 up and lose 3-2 away to a very good UCD side still kind of stung a little bit, even though we were missing a few players. But look, I think what we'll have to do, especially going into the second round of games, which will probably turn out to be the most important round, is just keep the head down, keep doing what we're doing, not start smelling ourselves and stuff like that. Again, we just have to, no matter what the results come, if we go on I don't know, fingers crossed, we're on a streak of games of winning, we still can't get ahead of ourselves and start looking too far ahead. It's always the following Friday that we have to look forward to and prepare for. And I think that's what we've done so far, and that's why we've come up with some surprising results, we'll say.
You touched on the Marketsfield and the fact that the fans there's a support there that you can't physically see at games on Friday nights yet. When fans are allowed back into the stadium, whatever guise that's going to be in the coming weeks or months, Limerick has a strong tradition of really getting behind a successful side, whatever the sporting code is. It's not that long ago since there was a couple of thousand in the Marketsfield for a playoff game with Limerick. If you were to get to a playoff semi-final or final, would you love to have that atmosphere of leading the team out to a home crowd in a playoff and hopefully maybe getting the club out of the first division?
Yeah, look, that and it sounds super cliche, but what else could you dream of? Do you know what I mean? When you're a little kid growing up, I suppose you're looking at the likes of the Premier League and stuff like that. But when you start actually getting involved in League of Ireland soccer, I don't think you could ask for much more than leading out your hometown club in front of sort of 2,000-3,000 people like they did when they played in playoffs against Finn Harps. And if I was given the opportunity to do that, I'd bite your hand off. Do you know what I mean? It would be something that I think would stay with me for a very long time. And if we were to come out on the right side of the result, I'd probably have to book about 3 or 4 weeks off work. They wouldn't see me. Never mind work, my family wouldn't see me for 3 or 4 weeks. But no, look, and as you said, I think if we were to get to that stage, and touch wood, we might make a playoff place or something like that. I think the sport would be there in leaps and bounds. I think you see even the kind of board members that are in there at the minute watching games, they still create some sort of a some sort of atmosphere, and there's only 10 or 20 of them plus the stewards. You know, there's not a lot of people in the grounds, and they're still getting behind the lads as much as they can, and creating that small bit of an atmosphere, which is kind of a precursor as to what might be to come when fans are let back in. So look, we're all just looking forward to it. It's a great kind of project to be involved with. I think we're all very lucky to be involved with it.
We just look forward to your next game against Cabinteely, and you know, I know you've a little bit of League of Ireland experience like within the squad, but what are you expecting from that game? Because that can be a really strange place to go. I know my own team has gone there a couple of times and lost, like when we probably had a stronger side, and you just don't know what the pitch is going to be like. Sometimes there's rugby on it, sometimes there's not. Like, so what are you actually expecting from Cabinteely coming this week?
Yeah, look, we'll go through the same process that we go through with everyone. We'll do our little bit of video and see what they're up to. We know they've got a good string of results over the last couple of weeks. I know they beat Athlone at home, stuff like that. But again, there's no easy games. Like you saw in Galway and Wexford nearly pulled out a point against Galway until David Hurley was in the top corner in the 95th minute. So anyone kind of pull out a result against anyone. We'll just have to go up there, as you say, take it in blocks of 15 minutes, you know, like we always do. Don't concede, look to score goals, and as you say, try and pinpoint their weaknesses, and hopefully we'll come out on the right side of the result, please God.
Yeah, well, you've been coming out on the right side of most results so far this season. I think I'd expect to see something similar from me over the course of the next couple of weeks. So it's been a fairy tale so far for the new boys in the league. Congratulations on getting yourself on the score sheet at the weekend. Huge little perk. 3 points is even better. And best luck on Friday and for the rest of the season.
Thanks very much, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers, Jack.
Jack Lynch there. Two great guests, two good results this weekend. Maybe against the run of play in terms of how the season has gone so far. But if you've been watching it closely, neither surprising that the Pats results and the Drogheda United result of the weekend did.
No, I think we've all been impressed with Drogheda, and like we said on Friday, it wasn't a smash and grab or just kind of nicking a win. It was a good, solid performance, very good goals. I'm sure Tim's very, very happy with the performance, and then the same with Tommy's side down at Treaty. They were well worth their 1-0 win. They were very, very solid. Took the goal really well, Jack, as we were talking to, and you know both managers, Drogheda and Treaty, they'll be delighted with those 3 points over the weekend.
Absolutely. Let's cast our eye forward to the fixtures over the coming week. And of course, we have a double round of fixtures, all 10 teams in action on Friday night and all 10 teams in action on Monday night as well. I might go through the fixtures. If you want to pick out 1 or 2 games that you think might be worth looking at this weekend, Friday at 5:45, 2 games kicking off there. Derry make the trip down to the RSC. They face Waterford, while Pats and Bows do battle at Richmond Park. Across the city, Shamrock Rovers, they go north to Dundalk to Oriel Park for what would have been a top of the table clash in recent years. Dundalk versus Shamrock Rovers, 7:45 kickoff there. Sligo Rovers and Longford Town, the N4 derby. You're making your way to the showgrounds, while Finn Harps host Drogheda United in the final game on Friday evening. All those games obviously on Watch LOI, €5 cover charge, or if you have a season pass, you get to watch it for free. Any highlights there for yourself, Dean? Obviously, you'll be involved down in the showgrounds.
Yeah, I think Dundalk Rovers was always, you know, the last couple of years traditionally a bigger game, but I'm looking more so towards Pats and Bows just at the moment. I think it might be a little bit more of an intriguing game. Bows playing well the last couple of weeks, 2 wins on the bounce. Pats lost 2 on the bounce as well. You know, we're expecting Bows to challenge for those kind of European spots, and Pats are obviously hoping to. So that could be one that has a real, effect on where those teams end up at the end of the season. So I think that's a really interesting one for Friday night.
Of course, Monday then, Bows continue their tough weekend. They host Dundalk at Finsborough in Dairyman Park, while Derry City and St Patrick's Athletic do battle in the Ryan McBride Brandywell. Both those games, 5:45 kickoffs. Waterford host Finn Harps, while Longford, you'll be travelling to Drogheda to play the Drogs there in Head in the Game Park, while Shamrock Rovers and Sligo Rovers, the clash of the Rovers in Tala. Now, not really a happy hunting ground for Sligo, although they have had good success between these sides in the showgrounds. It hasn't really translated into the away form. Your thoughts on those games this weekend?
Yeah, I think I'm looking at that Rovers and Sligo game, and just, you know, we've seen Sligo make a good start to the season here, and if they really want to challenge, they're going to have to start going to places like Rovers kind of consistently and getting something or putting it up to the likes of Rovers. And I'm sure Liam will set them up to try and get something from the game, and again that can propel them towards European places in the long run if they can go and secure a point there, or maybe get all three, who knows. So I think that's an interesting game. We've seen Rovers kind of methodically winning games over the first round of games and have pulled away a little bit, so it'll be interesting to see, can someone, and maybe it's Sligo, put a dent in that Rovers armoury.
Of course, it is the second and third last round of games before the mid-season break in June. There's a little break just after that, and it's going to be a kind of moving week. 3 games in the week, and I think it'll be early indications as to where we are and where teams are in their own ideas after 14 rounds of games in just a week's time, or 2 weeks' time. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Of course, same in the First Division. Last set of fixtures in the first round of games. Athlone versus Cobh and Cork versus Galway will take place on Saturday evening, all games Saturday evening. Shells and UCD top of the table clash. Wexford host Bray Wanderers, while Cabinteely, as we heard from Jack, will be playing against Drogheda United at home on Friday evening. All those games take place as well. So a full slate of fixtures, 10 games for Friday night. Your thoughts on those games? Anything you'd be suggesting people keep an eye on?
Yeah, I think the First Division, every week you can pick out a couple and you just don't know what you're going to get. I think Cabinteely Drogheda could be, a very up and down game. But I'm looking at Shells and UCD. Obviously, it's the standout game, and we expect UCD to kind of be a goal scoring team. Didn't score last week, so maybe we're going to see kind of a fresher team there, and they're going to come out, looking to score goals. And then Shells, who've been grinding along a little bit and have pulled up to the top of the table, so they can really make a statement there if they can beat one of their nearest rivals. So I think I'm looking at that game more than any. But there's always good value in the First Division, no matter where you go. There's going to be storylines and entertainment. So you can't go wrong with any of them. But UCD Shells, I think, is the bigger one of the fixture list there.
I suppose the fact that it's John Caulfield's first trip back to Cork City as well doesn't even make the ratings. Shows how interesting the First Division has become this year. Loads for all fans of all clubs to wet their whistle over the next 7 days. Dean, thanks very much for joining us. To our guests today, to Jack Lynch and Daniel O'Reilly, for joining us and giving us their time on what has been a particularly good weekend for both of them and both of their sides. To everyone watching and listening, thanks very much. Don't forget to subscribe to us, whether it's YouTube or on Spotify or any of the podcast directories, wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love to have you here each and every week. Dean, the best of luck in the showgrounds Friday night. It's always a tough place to go, particularly in recent weeks and months. And we wish you the very best of luck. And we'll see you back in a couple of weeks' time.
Cheers, Breif. Hopefully we have a few more points on the board by the time we speak next.